Hi, what's up? It's Jacob the Chess Lollipop. In today's chess strategy lesson, you will learn how to take advantage of open file and you will learn something about weak squares. So, we will analyze a game between Alexander Alekhine and Yates. Stay tuned and see you on the other side. Alright, we are at Chessbase right now and we are going to look at the game between Alexander Alekhine and Yates. It was played in 1922 in London. We'll go through opening quite quickly. We won't focus so much on theory and we will stop in a few moves. So there was played Queen's Gambit. So far both sides are playing normally, both sides are developing pieces, fighting for the center. Now Rook E8 according to theory is not so good, H6 is better. Alright, but by Bishop D3 was played, take on C4, Bishop C4, Knight D5, Knight E4. That's actually a little mistake. Now a very good move for black was to play Queen A5 to give a check. Now white can't go Knight C3 because there will be taking on C3, BC3, and white are losing piece on G5. If white played Queen D2 on the other side, there would be Bishop B4, then we have to play Knight C3, and after Bishop C3, BC3, E5, black would have a very nice initiative and overall the game would be even a little better for them. So let's go back. Now black made a fatal mistake. It was a very big strategic mistake and black played F5. Can you tell why this move is a very bad idea? Think for a moment. You can stop a video. Now we are back. And why it is a bad idea? Look, if white takes on E7, queen takes on E7, and knight goes back, we can see that black are left with very weak bishop on C8. It's very passive, it's blocked by its own pawns. So even if black somehow manages to play E5 in the future, then bishop will be still limited by this pawn. So that's the first reason F5 is a very bad idea. The second reason is, as I said in the intro, we will talk a little bit about weak squares. And in this game, you will see how E5 is a very weak square for black. And usually what is the case when white's one side has a weak square, it's a very strong square for the other side. We should also consider this square as a very strong square for our knight or for other pieces. We will see in the game. So B5 was played and it was another mistake. By playing such move, such aggressively, black is just weakening his position, and the better move was even B6 to develop bishop through B7 and then have some possibility to go bishop A6 in the future. B5, bishop D5, CD5. Black didn't have much choice here. If Yates took with A pawn on D5, there would be taking on C6. So taking with C pawn was somewhat obligatory, and now we can see white dominates on open C file. They are already doubled on this file, and we will see how Alekhine takes advantage of it. Castle, because we have to castle, we have to connect rooks. We shouldn't forget about it. A5 and knight B3. Apart from E5 square, which is very strong for us, we have also C5 square, which was weakened by B5 move. A4, knight C5. So knight is not only entering a very good square, but the plan is also to exchange this knight, so e5 square will be an eternal place for our knight, because you can see this bishop is light squared and nothing can get rid of this knight on e5 once it gets there and those knights are exchanged. Black took, queen c5, rook c5. So it's very clear that white has a huge positional advantage, and it's a pleasure to see how Alexander Alekhine, ex-world champion, is winning this position. Before and now we don't really have to react with these pawns. If black goes a3, we go b3. If black goes b3, we go a3. Rook fc1, bishop a6. So this bishop has some play here, but it doesn't have anything to do. It doesn't have any target to attack, and it doesn't have any further plan for himself. And now we go on e5 with our bishop and see how excellent this knight on e5 is. Black can only get rid of him by taking it with rook, which is obviously a loss of material, loss of exchange. Rook b8, and right now we don't really have to hurry to make things happen. Alekhine played f3, b3 and a3, h6 and king f2. So before Alekhine proceeds with his plan, he makes his position as strong as possible and he enters every piece into the game, including king, which in endgames should be active because there are no queens and it can't be attacked. So it's safe to go to the center. King h7. Alright, and what Alekhine is planning right now? If we have open file, there are a few things we can do about it. First is just a control of open file, which stops your opponent from entering your base and also makes him passive because he has to wait what you do, yeah? Second thing you can do is to attack some spot. For example, here was pawn, you could attack it. And third thing is penetration of opponent's base, and it's connected to entering 7th rank. If you have open file, your goal is to then go to 7th rank and double on 7th rank, because rooks loves 7th and 2nd ranks. Why? Because on 7th rank, rook does not only attack pawn horizontally, but it can also attack pawn from the side or from the back. So it's a great thing for rooks. Alekhine played h4, now rook f8, and we are going with king on g3. So we are still activating him. h4 was played in order to prevent black from playing g5, because now if he plays g5 to prevent our king from going to f4, then we take, and this king is in a very big danger. He has to go to g8 and now rook h1, and very soon we will see a checkmate. So black played rook fb8, and also you might think to yourself why black all this time didn't play rook c8. Let's see. Take, rook takes, bishop takes, and now we go with our knight on d3, and we will be attacking a4 and e6 simultaneously from our strong square on c5 and weak, and for black c5, as we remember, is weak. So that's why moves such as f5 and b5 were big mistakes, because white now has excellent points for his knight. Rook fb8, rook c7. So now when king is already in the game, Alekhine starts doubling rooks on 7th rank, which is one of the things you should be looking for when you have open file. Another important thing about open file is to look for so-called enter points. If you don't have enter points, then you can do nothing with your open file. For example, if all those pawns were protected by, for example, bishop was on b7, was protecting c6, and bishop was on b6, and it would be protecting c7 and c5 squares from here, and bishop from b7, c6, all those squares would be attacked and rook couldn't enter 7th rank. But now we have enter points everywhere. We have enter point at c5, at c6, and also at c7. Bishop b5, rook c5, so Alekhine doesn't hurry with anything. Bishop a6, rook c6, rook e8, and king f4. Soon you will see that e5 square, this weak for black and strong for white point, will be also used by king. King g8 and h5. This move isn't necessary, but as black can do nothing while we are realizing our advantage, we should play such move. Bishop f1, g3 with a stoic patience, bishop a6, and rook f7. King h7 and rook c7. So we accomplished our plan. We doubled rooks on 7th rank. Rook g8, and now comes a final attack. Knight d7. There is a very serious threat of knight f6 and then taking rook because there are forks. King h8, knight f6. Now black can't take because there is rook h7. Rook g f8, rook g7, rook f6, and now we will see a beautiful ending. King e5. So at the end, even king takes advantage of this weak square black created after f5. And now what to do with black? If now rook has only one square to escape attack, f8, but then we go rook h7, king g8, and obviously checkmate on g7. If there was rook af8, there would be the same checkmate. So we can see how weakening those squares by f5 and b5 gave white a winning strategical advantage, and also how white took advantage of open file. First they doubled rooks, then they activated all pieces including king, and then they doubled on 7th rank because they had this so-called enter point, enter square on c7. So thank you very much for watching. I hope you've learned a lot. I encourage you to hit the subscribe button, as I'm going to share a lot of good and high quality content. And also I encourage you to download my free ebook on my website or directly through link in the description. So see you next time, and best for you.